The rain had started as a thin silver mist, barely noticeable against the gray skyline, but within minutes it turned into a steady downpour that soaked the sidewalks and sent people scattering for cover. The late afternoon rush poured out of the subway station in hurried waves, heels clicking, briefcases swinging, umbrellas popping open like dark flowers. No one slowed down. No one looked twice at anything that didn't concern them. No one except her. Mira had just climbed the station stairs, adjusting the strap of her faded canvas tote bag on her shoulder. Inside were 2 borrowed library books, her half-finished notebook of short stories, and a small container of rice and lentils she'd packed for dinner. She worked evenings at a small bookstore cafe 3 blocks away, and if she walked quickly, she would make it just in time to help with the after-work crowd. She almost missed him. He sat near the curb where the pavement dipped awkwardly toward the crosswalk. His wheelchair was angled slightly sideways, one wheel caught deep in a jagged crack in the concrete. Rainwater pooled around the wheel, soaking through the fine wool of his trousers. His hands gripped the rims, pushing with controlled effort, but the wheel refused to budge. People flowed around him as if he were just another fixture of the street, a lamppost, a trash bin, something inconvenient but unimportant. Mira slowed. For a split second, she hesitated. Not because she didn't want to help, but because she could already feel the clock ticking in her mind. If she missed the 4:10 bus, she would have to wait another 20 minutes. Her manager hated late arrivals, even if he rarely said so outright. The man tried again. The chair jolted slightly but remained stuck. His jaw tightened. There was frustration in his posture, but also something else, restraint. He didn't call out, didn't wave anyone down. He simply kept trying. That was what made her step forward. "Sir," she called gently over the sound of rain. "It's caught." He looked up. His face was lined, not with age alone but with experience, sharp cheekbones, silver at his temples, eyes that were steady and observant. He wore a charcoal gray jacket tailored so precisely it looked sculpted rather than sewn. Even soaked, it carried quiet elegance. "I can manage," he said automatically. Mira smiled, already kneeling beside the wheel. "I know, but it'll be faster with 2 of us." She gripped the metal rim, cold and slick beneath her fingers. The crack in the pavement was deeper than it looked. Rainwater made the concrete slippery. "On 3, she suggested. He studied her for a moment, perhaps surprised by her confidence. Then he nodded. 1, 2, 3. They pushed together. The wheel shifted an inch but slipped back. She adjusted her footing, planting her worn sneakers more firmly against the pavement. Rain trickled down the back of her neck. "Again," she said. This time she pulled upward while he pushed forward. With a sharp scrape, the wheel popped free from the crack, splashing water onto her jeans. "There," she breathed, sitting back on her heels with a small victorious grin. He steadied himself and glanced down at the freed wheel, then back at her. Something in his expression softened. "Thank you," he said. His voice was low, measured. The kind of voice used to being heard in large rooms. She stood quickly, brushing her damp hands against her coat. "It happens all the time on this street. They've been meaning to fix it for months." "You seem familiar with the cracks," he observed. "I walk this way every day." The rain intensified, drumming against the pavement. Water dripped from the ends of her braid. "Are you headed somewhere?" she asked, noticing the steep incline ahead. The sidewalk slanted awkwardly toward the corner, already forming shallow rivers. "My driver was scheduled to meet me," he replied. "He's running late." She looked at the incline, then at the way his hands rested on the wheels. He could probably navigate it, but in this rain, it would be difficult. "Risky." "There's a bakery awning across the street," she said. "It's dry there. I can push you if you'd like." His brows lifted slightly. "You'll miss your bus." She blinked, surprised he'd noticed her earlier glance toward the stop. "I can catch the next one." "You're sure?" She shrugged lightly. "You're already wet. Another 10 minutes won't hurt me." He held her gaze, as if searching for something, hesitation, expectation, calculation. He found none. "Very well," he said at last. Mira moved behind the wheelchair and gripped the handles. They were heavier than she expected. The chair itself was sleek and modern, clearly high quality, but even so, pushing uphill against rain required effort. She leaned into it, careful and deliberate. Cars hissed past. A horn blared somewhere in the distance. Twice her foot slipped, but she steadied herself without complaint. "You don't have to rush," he said quietly. "I'm not," she replied, though her breath had grown uneven. They reached the bakery awning, its striped fabric offering a small island of dryness in the storm. She guided him beneath it and locked the wheels carefully. "There," she said. "Better." "Yes," he agreed, studying her more openly now. "Much better." She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a faint streak of rain across her cheek. "May I ask your name?" he said. "Mira. I'm Daniel." She nodded politely. "Nice to meet you, Daniel." There was no flicker of recognition in her eyes. No widened stare. Just simple courtesy. "And you work nearby?" he asked. "At the bookstore cafe down the block." "Do you enjoy it?" Her face lit up instantly, rain and fatigue forgotten. "Very much. It's small, but it feels important. Like it matters." He watched the way her hands moved as she spoke, the earnestness in her voice. "Most businesses," he said thoughtfully, "are measured by profit. Books shouldn't be," she replied without thinking. Then she flushed slightly. "I mean, not only." A faint smile touched his lips. An interesting perspective. A sleek black car turned the corner at that moment, slowing as it approached the curb. The driver jumped out quickly, umbrella in hand. "Sir, my apologies for the delay," the driver said, slightly out of breath. Mira blinked at the sudden shift in tone. "It's quite all right," Daniel replied smoothly. The driver moved to position the umbrella over him, shielding him carefully from the rain. Mira stepped back instinctively. "You'll be all right from here?" she asked. "Yes," he said, his gaze returning to her. "Thanks to you." She smiled, lifting her tote bag higher on her shoulder. "Take care, Daniel. And you, Mira." She ran toward the bus stop just as the next bus approached, barely making it through the doors before they closed. Inside the car, Daniel continued watching her through the rain-streaked window until she disappeared into the crowd. "Do you know her, sir?" the driver asked. "Not yet," Daniel said quietly. 2 weeks passed. Myra's world remained modest and tightly balanced. Rent was due soon. The cafe's espresso machine had been making an alarming grinding sound. Foot traffic had thinned, and whispers circulated among the staff about rising rent and possible closure. That morning, her manager had gathered them near the front counter. "There's a potential investor coming," he announced, wringing his hands. This could mean everything, or nothing. Mira felt her stomach twist. She loved this place. The smell of roasted coffee beans, the creak of old wooden shelves, the poetry readings where 5 loyal customers showed up every Friday. She couldn't imagine it gone. At noon, a black luxury car pulled up outside. Conversations hushed as a driver stepped out first, opening the rear door carefully. When Daniel emerged in his wheelchair, dressed in a navy suit so impeccably tailored it seemed to belong in a magazine spread, Myra's breath caught in her throat. It was him, the rain-soaked stranger from the street. Except now there was no rain. No crack in the pavement. No vulnerability. Only presence. Her manager hurried forward, almost tripping in his eagerness. "Mr. Vale, welcome. We're honored." Mr. Vale. The name hit her like a dropped book. Daniel Vale. The tech entrepreneur. The investor whose company logos dominated half the city skyline. She had read about him once in a borrowed business magazine left behind in the cafe. He wheeled inside, eyes scanning the shelves lined with novels and worn armchairs. "I like places that still smell like paper," he said calmly. The manager laughed nervously. "Yes, well, we pride ourselves on authenticity." Daniel's gaze lifted, and found Mira instantly. Recognition flashed. He guided his chair closer to the counter. "Mira," he said. Her voice felt small. "Daniel." The manager looked between them. "You've met." "In the rain," Daniel replied. Silence fell briefly. Mira suddenly became hyper-aware of the flour on her apron and the ink smudge on her wrist. "I didn't know who you were," she said softly. "I'm glad," he answered. He turned to the manager. "Shall we discuss the figures?" They disappeared into the office for nearly an hour. Mira tried to focus on making lattes, but her thoughts swirled. Why would someone like him care about this little shop? Why had he come personally? When the office door finally opened, the manager's face was flushed, this time not with worry, but disbelief. Daniel wheeled forward again, stopping in the center of the cafe. I've reviewed the numbers, he said evenly. The bookstore stays. A collective exhale filled the room. I will cover the outstanding rent and invest in renovations, he continued. Modernize the cafe equipment. Expand the events calendar. Marketing support. The manager nearly collapsed with gratitude. But, Daniel added, lifting a hand slightly, I have one condition. Tension returned instantly. He looked directly at Mira. I want her involved in managing the expansion. Her heart pounded. Me, you understand what this place means, he said. That has value. I'm just a part-time employee. You were just a stranger in the rain, he replied. That didn't stop you. She searched his face for pity, for obligation. There was none, only conviction. This isn't charity, he said quietly so only she could hear. You'll train, you'll earn your role, but I believe you're capable of more than you think. Tears blurred her vision before she could stop them. Yes, she whispered. A slow smile appeared on his face. Not triumphant, not indulgent, but satisfied. 2 weeks earlier, she had seen a man stuck in the rain and chosen to help without asking who he was. Now, standing in the warm glow of the bookstore lights, Mira understood something profound. Kindness doesn't ask for resumes. And sometimes, the smallest decision, to stop, to help, to care, can quietly rewrite your entire future.